Playing a little rock for Steve Robertson. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Mississippi's College Town. Starkville, Mississippi just added another flight to the Golden Triangle. 12 minutes from campus. You can fly direct from Dallas, Fort Worth. Any day of the week, baby. And twice a day, Atlanta. 12 minutes from the MSU campus. I have flown in and out of GTR. It is fabulous because it's a small airport. It's great. Big deal to land that. Dallas, Fort Worth, direct flight into Starkville, Mississippi, running at 85% occupancy since April. And then you got 2 Atlanta flights. They're adding a third. I don't know if they've added it yet, but they're adding a third Atlanta flight because of the university and the research and everything else and the huge economic boom in the area. But flights in and out, Delta and American, that's beautiful. Also, Two Brothers wants to see you this fall. Upstairs, downstairs, balcony, whatever. It's going to be a ton of fun, great experience, music, food. And Older Brother Bistro, their new concept, which is right beside it, with the Reuben and Muffaletta and all kinds of good. Oh, the Lox Bagel, all at Two Brothers. Well, all at Older Brother Bistro. And then Two Brothers has the wings and street tacos. So here we go. There will not be a game there this weekend, as you know, but there will be next weekend with Arizona State and Dilly, Kenny Dillingham, and Sam Levitt coming in to Starkville. So we welcome in genespage.com, 247 Sports, the Boneyard Podcast. Steve Robertson joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So you're going down to your neighborhood as far as Columbia and Hattiesburg for the weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, it's we're going to give fair warning, the boys back, But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I love living up here, but it's always nice to get back. And growing up down there, I got a lot of friends, of course, that it goes. I mean, everybody wants you to come by and see their tailgate. It's a work day for us, but we'll try to get out there and see a few people after it's over.
Okay. Do you have the dogs by 50, or what's up? What's happening?
Now, I'm not going to be quite that optimistic. I do think State wins this game with some margin. I think it'll probably be a game for, maybe a half, quarter and a half. But, yeah, I just think the depth of what State's going to be bringing on the offensive line and with that running back room, I think it's going to be difficult for Southern Miss to hold up. But, State can't go out there and shoot themselves in the foot. I think Braylon's a really good quarterback. I watched him extensively yesterday, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of RPO stuff. They're going to try to stress the defense and make you defend every blade of grass. And, he's got 5 of his receivers from Marshall that made the trip with him. So there's going to be some continuity there. And, again, I want to reiterate, we said this on the show, and people, I don't know what it is with these walk-on media types. They don't do any research. They just go out there and just start running their mouth. But I watched this thing earlier. They didn't bring any offensive linemen from Marshall. I don't know where that's. I know we can all read. We have access to Al Gore's internet, and we all get to see the same thing. But for some reason, some people just keep missing with that sort of stuff. So this is not Marshall 2.0. They have 19 transfers from Marshall. A couple of those guys that didn't play last year. They got a handful of guys that haven't had any college production yet. Yeah, they got some dudes that can play, but anybody expecting this to basically be the Marshall team of last year has deluded themselves.
Your expectations is that Mississippi State should dominate in the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah, and I think it may take a quarter or two to kind of get that going, just because of the fact. I mean, you got so many new faces on both sides of the line of scrimmage for both teams. So there's going to be an adjustment before everybody kind of settles in and plays football. And I think if you're Southern Miss, the thing you've got to do is avoid State getting separation early in this ball game. And if you're Levy, that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to go out there and start quick, and then be able to kind of let Davin Boots and Fluff Bothwell and those guys just kind of get you where you want to go. I just, we talk about the average weight of the State offensive line last year, I think was 311. It's up to 325 this year. So it's going to be a bigger, more physical group. And I think it's going to be difficult for Southern Miss's defensive front to hold up. And they've got some dudes, too, on that front line. They got some guys that came in from West Virginia and other places like that. So they've got some Power 5 bodies, but they don't have much behind them. And if this game turns into a situation where State's able to play ahead with a lead and just kind of run the football with that backfield, I think it's a game that could get away from them.
Okay. All right, so most improved unit. I mean, we're going to find out in the first few games, but this is what we do. We speculate here. Most improved unit, defensive line, offensive line, running back room, something else. Which way are you going, Steve?
Well, I'm going to go defensive line, and mainly because those guys have been here through spring, right? I mean, they've had the opportunity, to kind of understand what David Turner and Vincent Dancy wanted to do, what Coleman Hutzler, Mike McIntyre, those guys want to do. So they've had the benefit of working together all through spring and summer and into fall camp. Offensive line, you got some talent, you got some bodies there, and you return, some guys with multiple snaps from last year's team. So there wasn't quite the overhaul needed on the O-line there was on a D-line, but you got some guys like Zach Owens, a guy that's expected to play your right guard that just got here in June. So I think that group will be okay. And, of course, the running back room basically returns intact, where basically you traded out Kevon Lee for Fluff Bothwell, which is a trade you'll make 365 days a year. But, I think all three of those units will be improved, but I think the biggest improvement is going to be on the defensive line because, number one, you've got size and strength and now some experience where last year you didn't have much of any of that.
Steve Robertson, Gene's Page 247 Sports. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. I'm told that Paul Rhodes will be on the sideline and Mike McIntyre will be in the booth. Is that what you've heard, or did I get the wrong information?
I've heard that. I haven't really chased it to confirm it yet. I had somebody else ask me down on the board yesterday, and I'm trying to get some information on that. But yeah, I think that's really the case. I think McIntyre will be kind of the eyes in the sky, and Rhodes will be down there kind of assisting with some adjustments.
Okay. All right. So, and how we're still trying to figure out, do you think exactly what the roles are of Paul Rhodes and Mike McIntyre, the two defensive analysts?
Yeah, well, that's basically it. I mean, they're going to be analysts and kind of assisting, and they work on self-scouting, they work on game planning. There's a lot of things that they're going to do, that maybe isn't so much hands-on. They're going to be hands-on, but there's a lot of things they can do to kind of prepare us, and I think that's one of the big things when you look at what Jeff Lebby did the offseason, you want to bring Coleman Hutzler back, I get it, but you can't just run it back with what you had and expect to get better results, right? So you upgrade your roster, you bring in Vincent Dancy, you bring in Rhodes and McIntyre. And so they're not just bringing those guys in to hand them an official issue Adidas polo shirt. I mean, those guys are going to have responsibilities to get this thing turned around. And, of course, now with the NCAA rules that, analysts are basically coaches, So, yeah, they're going to be doing some coaching. It's not going to be like they're just kind of sitting around
right.
and, working through Pro Football Focus's numbers.
Right.
They're going to be very much involved.
What about who do you think, if Mississippi State is able to pull away, or if there's situations that Lebby and them have come up with some situational offense that they want to play another quarterback, do you think it's going to be Kamario Taylor, the super stud out of Knoxville, or Croman Hawk, the transfer out of Florida State?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's not one that I really think I can answer yet. But I hope the game itself allows for that, right? I mean, you hope that you're in a situation where you can get some separation late, and maybe give both of those guys a series. But I don't know that I would run Kamario out there just to go hand the football off. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially with what you've got ahead of you, you get the Alcorn State game in Northern Illinois, and you'd like, if he's going to be able to have a significant role this year, even in a red zone capacity, if you're not going to redshirt him, I think you got to play him and just kind of let him go. I mean, you sign players to play them these days. But yeah, I think I would probably, in this game, maybe first game jitters type stuff, I'd probably go with Croman Hawk. He's already got some college level experience.
Okay. All right. Wide receivers. Kevin Coleman. I mean, don't you think he's the most talented guy they've had since Molds? He transferred out, or one of them. And, if Justin Jenkins doesn't tear up his knee, who knows? And he was still good. How would you frame up the wide receiver talent there?
Well, I would say DeRonye Wilson and Fred Ross are pretty good. You've had some guys here, and Bump himself was really good. But as far as game changers, you hadn't really had anybody like Molds, and I don't know if you ever will. But yeah, I like the group, and everybody on campus tells me it's a deeper group than last year. Last year, at this point last year, we didn't know what Mario Craver was going to do, and I don't know that he did enough. But Kevin Coleman obviously had an elite season for Mississippi State on a really, really bad team. That's difficult to do, but there wasn't a lot of depth around them. Akari was a guy that was kind of banged up, and there were some high expectations for him. And this group, I'm told, is going to be much deeper. They're going to be more guys in the rotation, which will enable those guys to be fresh. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Vernon Thompson and Anthony Evans do. Those are two guys that Jeff Lebby is significantly spoke about throughout spring and camp. And these are guys that he's expected them to have great years. And, Bump said himself, that even though Kevin Coleman left, the production for that position doesn't leave because it's such a significant part of the offense. There's a lot of stuff dialed up for that particular receiver spot. So Jeff Lebby knew how to use Kevin Coleman. And if you go back and look at what Coleman did in his first couple of years in the college level, he didn't do much at all. Then he comes to Mississippi State and things explode, and he gets a chance to go back home. And I kind of get that. And he and Luther were not exactly the best of friends, so there was no risk of him going there the first time. Well, now that Luther's gone, he's back home in Missouri, and he's a St. Louis kid. But at the end of the day, I think you got to give Jeff Lebby and Chad Bumpus for getting the most out of a guy that had a ton of potential but didn't have much production. And I think, if anything, that gives you a little vote of confidence and think, hey, if he could do that for Kevin Coleman, he could probably do it for Anthony Evans and Vernon Thompson too.
Okay. You've got to improve under the headsets and on the field. So, and there's a lot on the line for the staff. I've said they have to win 5 games or there'll be a change. Some people can agree or disagree, whatever. But, so, I mean, are you looking at how big of a jump? Are you expecting a bigger jump as far as talent on the field or with the headsets, Steve?
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to need improvement on both sides, but players have to make plays. I mean, obviously coaches have got to put you in a position to be successful, but these guys have been playing football their whole lives. And so, you do your best to give them the game plan and teach them the techniques they need to get loose and make plays, but it's up to them at the end of the day. Players have to go make plays. And there are sometimes, you have players that kind of exceed their coaching, right? I mean, you have some guys that you're just kind of in their way, right? I mean, we talked about Eric Molds and people like that. I mean, sometimes you just got to let guys get play, and I think sometimes you just simplify things and let their athleticism take over. But, you're not going to coach your way out of this. You got to game plan your way into it and have guys go make plays.
Okay. The weakest room or unit on the field is cornerbacks. Is that right, Steve? Or least talented?
I honestly, I think I may go tight end.
Okay.
And I think that's just because there's so many unknowns, right, with them. I mean, I think Kelly Jones is going to be good. I'm interested to see what happens on the other side. Is it Diego Brumfield? I think he's probably a G5 guy. And you got Jed Jefferson, a guy that's basically a converted quarterback that learned to play corner in JUCO, and so I think, there's some concern there at corner, but I'm probably most concerned about that tight end room. And I know Jeff wants to use the tight end a lot more, and you go out and you go get, Sam West and you go get Max, but, Max is basically a blocking tight end and Sam got one career catch, and so
Good
I
hell.
Think that's I probably go to and say, this is the room. Like if Seydu went down, right, and God forbid, right, and I think Seydu's still got more in the tank. I think he can be a better player, but there's just not much depth behind him. I mean,
Oh,
there
God.
really isn't.
Okay, because I think Sadoo's borderline. I mean, I think he's probably more G5 than Power 4. So that's interesting right there that you point that out. I agree with you that Levy wants to use that position. I thought that they would have maybe done a little bit better in the portal, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We'll see. And so I was told, I thought Mac, for our listeners, Mike McIntyre is a former head coach at Colorado and San Jose State. He actually won at both those places. And then he's been an assistant under Parcells with the Cowboys, Cutcliffe at Ole Miss and Duke. Well respected. Rhodes, former Iowa State head coach, and been a DC here and there. But so I thought Mac would be coaching DBs because that's what he did a lot of when he wasn't coordinating or head coaching. But somebody told me over the weekend that Rhodes was working with the DBs and Mac was working with another group. What have you heard as far as, I know they're helping with the defense overall, but specifically positions, have you heard which ones they're focusing on, Steve?
Yeah. In practice that we've been able to observe, and there hadn't been a whole lot of it. I mean, you've seen more Rhodes working with the DBs, the safeties, corners. I mean, basically the secondary.
Okay.
And I've seen Matt work with backers, and then also too kind of work with the edge guys. I mean, Dancy's kind of running that group, but you've seen there's a lot of rotation, right? And I don't think that McIntyre is like necessarily confined to one group. I think it's just one of those situations where if there's something that needs to be addressed, then he has the autonomy, I think, in some respects, to go do that.
Okay.
I think it's Hutzler's defense, right? But those guys are there to ensure that he is going to be successful. And, I mean, I can tell you, we go out there to practice and we're not out there long, but, it's organized. I mean, it's not a situation where guys are, you say, okay, let's take a 5-minute water break and turns into 20 minutes.
Oh, it's not Joe Moorhead's practices. Okay, good.
No, it's not like that at all. It's very regimented. And when the period ends and the horn sounds, everybody goes to the next thing and they run to that. And I mean, there's no waste of time in practice. That's one thing I'll say. And there wasn't a lot of it last year, but there just seems to be more sense of urgency this year.
Yeah, I bet. All right. What else all right. So Huff, you mentioned the Marshall, they've got a playmaker at quarterback. They didn't bring any offensive linemen from Marshall, bunch of skill dudes. Mississippi State should be physically superior and all that, but you still got to play it out. Have you heard anything like without knowing a lot about what they are with 60 new players at Southern, outside of, they've got a playmaker at quarterback. Have you heard anything else through the grapevine of where they think they may be pretty good, Steve, down in Hattiesburg?
Well, they like their running back room, and they should. I mean, you got a couple of former SEC guys back there, but, I think Jeff Pittman is going to be RB1 when this thing shakes loose, and I like Jeff. And, obviously things didn't work out, and he had to leave Mississippi State. But he's a guy from Taylorsville and very talented guy. And in that league, I think he can be a difference maker for them. The issue with them is going to be that offensive line group. That offensive line is really, really, really interesting. And even this week, they've been talking about, we flipped some guys from one side to the other, kind of getting them comfortable. If you're doing that 10 days before a game, you're not in good shape offensive line wise. When you've had the benefit of spring and summer workouts and the beginning of fall camp, and then 2 weeks before the game, you're having to experiment moving this guy from guard to tackle, this guy from right to left. You're not in a good place. And I think that's going to be a real challenge for Southern Miss until they get things settled. And I think once they get into their league and get a couple of games under their belt, they'll be in better shape. But, the portal haul of the offensive line was a lot more of what they had rather than necessarily improvement. They went out and got 10 bodies, and 3 of them from the FCS and 2 of them Power 4 guys that hadn't played much at all. And so you're kind of trying to rebuild an offensive line that doesn't have much in the way of returners, and then you go out and get guys that are more in tune with what you had last year. That's going to be a real issue, I think, for them, not just this weekend, but in weekends to come until they find the rotation of maybe 6 or 7 guys they can be comfortable with.
All right, what you're laying out to me tells me if Mississippi State has done what they're supposed to do as far as the players and the coaches, they should be able to dominate running the football and stopping the run. Is that how you see it, Steve?
Yeah, that's how I see it. I think the X factor in all this is Braylon, and he's listen. He's not Cam Newton, right?
Right.
But this guy's capable of improvising, and that's what watching that Louisiana Lafayette game yesterday. It's one thing that I noticed is like when things break down, he's not a guy that's going to hesitate, right? Either he will get outside the pocket, have his receiver work back to him. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he is the guy that runs the ball well and I think executes that RPO really at a high level. And so that's really the issue there is you got to be able to contain him, make him be a quarterback, and you can't turn football over. And I think if you can do those things, if you can kind of manage him a little bit, you're not going to stop him, but if you can manage him a little bit, not turn the football over, State should cover this game and really not have much anxiety in the fourth quarter.
All right, so Steve Robertson's saying bet the farm on the Dogs. What's the line
Jackson
now?
Already did.
Yeah, I'm sure Jackson already parlayed it 14 different ways. It went down.
Is it back up to 13?
Yeah. So it went down to 10.5, and then I pull it up yesterday, and it was back up to 13.5. What the hell is going on, Steve?
Well, I mean, come on. What's interesting to me, and I pointed this out on my show, it's interesting when it dropped to 10.5. All of a sudden, that was news around our state. But now that it's back up, nobody wants to talk about it.
True.
So either you don't know how lines work, or you didn't know what you were talking about in the first place, or maybe perhaps you have an inherent bias. But the reality of it is, it's like we try to make news whenever there's no news, and that's what we do in Mississippi. So
61.5 is the total. I don't think Southern Miss is going to score a lot of points. Well, they shouldn't score a lot of points, even with what Steve is saying about Braylon Braxton. And he's right. He's talented. He went 8-0 as a starter last year at Marshall and 19 TDs and 2 picks. So the kid can ball out, but still. All right. I know you're taking Hattiesburg by storm, and I'm sure you'll be at Crescent City Grill or Ed's Burger Joint or both or the Midtowner. So enjoy your trip. I'll be down there too. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Steve.
See you, bud.
GenesPage.com 247 Sports. We'll be live from Bocoma Casino and their brand new sports book in Laurel Friday. So we'll be in studio tomorrow and then live there on Friday. Looking forward to that. Mississippi State's going to play on Hardy Street in the Rock on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Can't believe they scheduled this game, but they are going to do it. People are excited about it. So are we.